Now we're moving on to corporate strategy. The big question is, what business or businesses are we or should we be in? A portfolio strategy is a corporate level strategy that minimizes risk by diversifying investment among various businesses or product lines. So normally companies can grow by expanding their customers, and sometimes they grow by acquisitions. Now those acquisitions can be related or unrelated, and if they're unrelated, that's called unrelated diversification. The Boston Consulting Group Matrix is a portfolio strategy that managers use to categorize their corporate's businesses by growth rate and relative market share, helping them decide how to invest corporate funds. Stars are companies that have a large share of a fast-growing market. To take advantage of the star's fast-growing market and its strength in that market, the corporation must invest substantially in it. The investment is usually worthwhile because many stars produce sizable profits in the future. Question marks are companies that have a small share in a fast-growing market. If the corporation invests in these companies, they may eventually become stars, but the relative weakness in the market, their small share, makes investing in a question mark more risky than investing in a star. Cash cows are companies that have a large share in a slow-growing market. Companies in this situation are often highly profitable, hence the name cash cow. Finally, we have dogs. They are companies that have a small share in a slow-growing market. They're usually not that profitable. Since the idea is to redirect investment from slow-growing to fast-growing companies, the Boston Consulting Group Matrix starts by recommending that a substantial cash flow comes from cash cows being reinvested in stars as long as the cash lasts. This helps them, the stars, grow even faster and obtain even more market share. Using this strategy allows current profit to help produce future profit. As their market growth slows over time, some stars may turn into cash cows. Cash flow should also be directed to some of the question marks. Though riskier than stars, question marks have great potential because of their fast-growing market. Managers must decide which question marks are most likely to turn into stars and which ones are too risky and should be sold. Over time, managers hope some question marks will become stars as their small market shares become larger market shares. Finally, because dogs lose money, the corporations should find them new owners or take them to the pound. In other words, dogs should either be sold to other companies or be closed down and liquidated for their assets. Now, this slide talks about the relationship between diversification and risk. On the left-hand side of the slide, we see that a single business is associated with a large amount of risk. That makes sense, right? If you just have one business, things can change, markets can change, laws can change that put that business at risk rather quickly. If we go to the right-hand side of the slide, we see that unrelated diversification even has more risk. Now, why? Well, we found that companies that buy other companies or corporations that buy companies outside of their sphere of management can't capitalize on the knowledge base that they have running the businesses that they know already, if that makes sense. So, for instance, if I am a medical supply manufacturer and I move from X-ray manufacturing, like X-ray machines and film machines, into iPhones, right? They're both electronics, so now I have, well, not the iPhone, but cellular making phones or cellular phones. They're still electronics, but they're not the same regulatory things behind them. You're really good at knowing the medical regulations. So instead of going into mass communication type of regulations, what we would like you to do to keep the risk down is go into other similar medical devices, like making hips for hip replacement or joint replacement. Because you already know those medical regulations, you already know how to go through those hoops, manage your quality to meet the standards. There's a lot of synergies you can catch that way. Going into unrelated diversification, you can't capture those synergies and the risk just goes up. Now, there's one company that I would say is an exception to this, I think GE, one of their core capabilities is being able to buy companies that they see potential in, regardless of what business it is, and incorporating them into the GE management structure. GE is probably the first hedge fund, before hedge funds were popular. They'd come in, buy a business, look at the management, rework the management, get the company going, infuse money if they need to in the company, and get it profitable. And usually they would hold on to it, but sometimes they would, after it was profitable, sell it for a profit. Anyway, that's one exception to this idea that unrelated diversification adds risk, but most of the time we'd say that it does. The purpose of a growth strategy is to increase profits, revenues, market share, or the number of places, like stores or locations, in which the company does business. Companies can grow in several ways. They can grow externally by merging with or acquiring other companies. Another way to grow is internally by directly expanding the company's existing business and creating or growing new businesses. The purpose of a stability strategy is to continue doing what the company has been doing, just doing it better. Companies following a stability strategy try to improve the way in which they sell the same products or services to the same customers. Companies often choose a stability strategy when their external environment doesn't change much or after they have struggled with a period of explosive growth. The purpose of a retrenchment strategy is to turn around a very poor company performance by shrinking the size or scope of a business, or if a company is a multi-business corporation, by closing or shutting down different lines of the business. The first step is typically cost cutting, which means I'm laying off people, closing poor performing stores or manufacturing plants, or cutting and selling entire lines of products or services. After we get done with cutting the cost and reducing the size or scope of the business, then we go into a recovery mode. Recovery consists of taking strategic actions that will place a company into a growth strategy. This slide actually goes into the next part. I think it would be part 4 for this chapter. So we'll end this part here.